Chapter 2 Mindfulness. Befriend your emotions. Ever since I became active on Twitter and Facebook, people have been sending me messages asking for my advice. The most frequently asked question is how to deal with strong negative emotions, such as anger, hatred, and jealousy. The good news is that those raising this question are already halfway there. The fact that they are asking the question indicates that they are mindful enough to notice the negative states of their own mind, which is not an easy thing to do. Most people are completely absorbed in their emotions and have limited self-awareness. The people who have asked me this question noticed what was happening in their minds as they were being swept into a whirlwind of negative emotions, slowed down, and then sent me a message. When people sense a negative emotion coming on, their first impulse is to control it so that they do not feel overwhelmed or threatened by it. If they can, they would like to get rid of it immediately or flee from it. They rarely think it merits deeper understanding. This is probably why people use such expressions as managing anger or overcoming hatred instead of befriending your emotion. It is difficult to quickly control a strong negative emotion. The more we try to control it, the more it becomes agitated and resurfaces. Even if we control it, we may end up merely suppressing it, only for it to reemerge later. Imagine that a strong negative emotion is like mud swirling inside a fish tank. To get the mud to sink to the bottom of the tank, so you can submerge your hands in the muddy water and try to push the mud to the bottom. The more you try to push it down, the more you'll churn it up. Similarly, in an attempt to control a negative emotion, you may try to push it down. Unfortunately, the harder you try, the more it resurfaces. So what should we do? How can we better understand our negative emotions and try to resolve them instead of suppressing them? The answer is fairly simple. All we have to do is separate the raw energy of negative emotions from linguistic levels like anger or hatred, and then witness it calmly until the energy morphs into something else. What is important here is not to get attached to words like anger, hatred, and jealousy, and instead to witness the raw energy behind the labels. Although it may be subtle, the energy constantly changes while the level remains static. If you peel the label off and get in touch with the raw energy, you soon realize that the negative emotion is only temporary, one that changes without your efforts. Therefore, much like a mirror reflects what is before it without judgment or identification with the image, simply reflect the negative emotion. Let's say it's anger and watch this passionately. You will see the anger slowly changing shape, either revealing a deeper layer of emotion or disappearing on its own. If another layer of emotion is revealing itself, attend to it the way you did with your anger. When you try to understand something, it's often most effective to set aside your preconceptions and observe it quietly so that the object of your examination reveals what needs to be understood. Instead of diving into the muddy water of your emotion as a way to conquer it, you should observe it from the outside and let it settle down and transform on its own. As the spiritual teacher Jiddu Krishnamurti said, pure attention without judgment is not only the highest form of human intelligence, but also the expression of love. Observe the changing energy both attentively and lovingly as it unfolds in the space of your mind. I can imagine someone wondering, what is so great about just observing? Isn't it avoiding reality? The answer is quite the opposite. You are not avoiding it, you are actually staring straight into it. Rather than getting caught in the emotion without any self-awareness, you are inquiring and then feeling what is there. As you get better at it, you will realize that the negative emotion is not a fixed reality. It naturally emerges and retreats within the space of your awareness, regardless of your will. Once you awaken to this truth, you will not be swayed by negative emotions and can regard them as a passing cloud instead of identifying with them as a defining part of yourself. Do not fight your negative emotions. Observe and befriend them. If you want revenge because your feelings are hurt, all you can see is your own suffering. But if you calm yourself and look more deeply, you will see that the person who hurt you is suffering too. In the chambers of our heart, we have two tenants living side by side, Adolf Hitler and Mother Teresa. When we are overcome by insecurity and fear, we feel the inner workings of Hitler. When we are in touch with love and connection, we hear the gentle voice of Mother Teresa. We lose interest in movies or TV series in which good characters are always good and bad ones are always bad. This doesn't match up to reality. No person is always good or bad. No person can be found who has been, is, or will be only criticized or only praised. The Dhammabada. A moral purist who is quick to judge others often fails to see the flaws within himself. When someone criticizes another, you might think he deserves it. But if you look more closely, you will see that the critic is complaining because he did not get his way. So do not be so easily swayed. When you attack someone, it is often because you are afraid. A friend starts talking ill of someone you don't like, and you agree wholeheartedly. But then you can't help but wonder, when I'm not around, does she speak ill of me too? Gossip can be cathartic in the moment, but it travels fast and can bite you back. The reason you regard me as pure and compassionate is that you are pure and compassionate yourself. When people who don't know you well admire you, they are seeing their projected illusion, not your real self. In contrast, when people who know you well respect you, it is probably because you deserve it. Some ask if swallowing your pride is conceding defeat. I don't think so. Humility is a sign of inner strength and wisdom. When you swallow your pride, real communication becomes possible. We can finally hear each other and eventually solve our problems. When someone tells you no, don't react emotionally and lose control. No may open up a surprising new world to you. No may unexpectedly lead you to good people. If you begin to push back against the unchangeable no, you will suffer in the process and miss other opportunities. Your boss asks you to run an errand that has little to do with your job. Rather than getting annoyed, just do it and let it go. Do not turn something trivial into a major source of agony by wasting time and energy thinking about it endlessly. If I had to summarize the entirety of most people's lives in a few words, it would be endless resistance to what is. As we resist, we are in constant motion, trying to adjust, and yet we still remain unhappy about what is. If I had to summarize the entirety of an enlightened person's life in a few words, it would be complete acceptance of what is. As we accept what is, our minds are relaxed and composed. While the world changes rapidly around us, do not try to control those around you. When you cannot control even your own mind, what makes you think you can control others? Things I liked when I was young but now couldn't care less about. Airplane rides, all-you-can-eat buffets, horror movies, staying up all night. Things I enjoy now that I'm older. Mozart, brown rice, meditation, spending time alone, regular exercise. We change without realizing it. We are in the midst of change even now. Do not lament that the world has changed. Do not resent that people have changed. Evaluating the present through the memories of the past can cause sadness. Whether you like it or not, change is inevitable. Embrace and welcome it, whether it is an object, a thought, or a feeling. If it has emerged out of emptiness, it will soon change its form and eventually retreat back to emptiness. Seekers in search of the eternal truth must look beyond its impermanent nature and become aware of that which knows impermanence. The monk most venerated by other monks is not the one who appears most holy, preaches the best, runs the largest temple, most accurately predicts the future, has the ability to cure illness. He is the one who teaches through his own actions. He possesses no aura of self-importance and sacrifices himself first for the community. Spirituality must be practiced, not just in solitude but also among people. Open up to people around you and feel connected. This is the true challenge of spiritual practice. If you are sincere about reaching enlightenment, you can learn even from a child or from the person who insults you on the street. The entire world becomes your teacher. The person leading you toward spiritual awakening is not the one who praises you or is nice to you. Your spirituality depends because of those who insult you and give you a hard time. They are your spiritual teachers in disguise. How can you tell if someone is truly enlightened? Shower him with both praise and criticism. If he shows signs of being susceptible to either, then it means he has forgotten his enlightened nature. Our emotions are capricious, like the weather in London. 1 minute, when someone criticizes us, we are offended and furious. The next minute, when someone praises us, we feel proud and pompous. Unless we recognize the still point beneath the surface of our changing emotions, we'll feel we are hostage to their whims. Someone advanced in spiritual practice has the following attitude. In a large community, she lives as though she is alone. She minds her own business without meddling in others. When alone, she acts as though she is in a large community. She follows her regimen without sliding into laziness. A great spiritual teacher can wait for her students to mature. She feels no need to boast or prove her enlightenment. She neither imposes her teachings nor asks students to follow her exclusively. She lets her students be so they can grow on their own. When a deep, honest conversation makes us feel connected to someone, we become very happy. The same deep connection with ourselves is possible by wholly accepting who we are and realizing the enlightened nature of ourselves. This too is a source of incomparable happiness and freedom. When you are feeling low, Haemin Sunim, I'm feeling low. What should I do? Quietly observe the feeling without trying to change it. It will change on its own. As if gazing at a tree in the backyard, as if sitting by a river and watching the water flow by, quietly observe your feelings as if they are external to you. If you observe your feelings in this way for just 3 minutes, you will notice their energy and texture slowly changing. Feelings are often born from a matrix of conditions beyond your control. Just like you can't control the weather or your boss's mood, You can't control the feelings in your body. They are just passing through, like cloud in the sky. They too dissipate on their own. But if you take them too seriously and start internalizing them as part of your identity, then you will resuscitate them every time you think about the past. Remember that you are neither your feelings nor the story your mind tells about you to make sense of them. You are the vast silence that knows of their emergence and their disappearance. When the mind looks outward, it is swayed by the heavy winds of the world. But when the mind faces inward, we can find our center and rest in stillness. People ask, how can I clear my head when I meditate? The more I try, the more my thoughts seem to arise. This is completely natural because trying to clear your head is also a thought. Do not try to get rid of your thoughts. It won't work. Instead, witness the emergence of a thought. Witness the disappearance of a thought. The moment you become aware of it, the mind quiets and becomes clear. We like to talk about things external to ourselves because our minds are accustomed to flowing out into the world. Spiritual practitioners, however, reverse the flow and look inward. They stopped talking about external matters and train themselves to become intimate with the mind. Of all the words that pour out of our mouths every day, how many are really ours? And how many are borrowed from others? How often do we say something original? Is there such a thing as our own words anyway? Within each of us, there is an inner witness quietly observing what goes on inside and outside of us. Born from a place of silence and wisdom, even when the world churns up a storm of emotions, the witness sits calmly in the eye of the storm, unharmed, luminous, and all-knowing. If you wish to clear away the clouds of your thoughts, simply keep your mind in the present. The clouds of thought linger only in the past or the future. Bring your mind to the present and your thoughts will rest. Rather than repeating, "It is awful, it is awful," stare straight into the awful feeling. Quietly examine the feeling. Can you see its impermanent nature? Let the feeling leave when it says it wants to go. Everything in this universe is evanescent. Because it is evanescent, it is also precious. Spend this precious moment wisely and beautifully. The mind cannot have two thoughts at once. See if you can think two thoughts at exactly the same time. Well, is it possible? We can be consumed by anger for a long time without realizing we have been angry. Similarly, we are easily lost in thought without knowing we have been thinking. Even when we are awake, we are not different from a sleepwalker. We do things without the awareness of doing them. Just because our eyes are open doesn't mean we are awake. Being awake means that you know what is happening within your field of awareness. Rather than blindly following your thoughts and feelings, stay awake and recognize the state of your mind before it is too late. At mealtimes, we often do not realize how much we have eaten until we stand up. Spiritual practice is all about being mindful of each moment. If you are aware in the moment that your stomach is getting full, then you are spiritually advanced. Our consciousness often does not know what our subconscious wants. We think we want something, but when we get it, we realize we wanted something else. When you wish to hear the voice of your subconscious, try meditation. Meditation opens a secret path to your subconscious. Our consciousness may desire money, power, and prestige, But our subconscious desires selfless love, harmony, humor, beauty, sacredness, peace, and acceptance. When we listen to silence, we can hear subtle vibrations. While listening to the vibrations, ask a simple question. What is it that is listening? There is no listener, there is only listening. When I gaze upon water, I become water. When I look at a flower, I become the flower. The flower riding on the water. Yippee! Zen Master Sunim, 1912 to 2003. When our bodies are fit and healthy, we feel light, almost like air. But just because we feel light doesn't mean our bodies are not there. It takes a lot of effort for our fitness to appear natural and effortless. But just because it appears effortless doesn't mean that no effort was made. What we call our spirit or enlightened nature exists like air. So light and nature that we are not aware of it unless we train ourselves to be mindful of it a long time ago. There was only one mind which became bored by being alone for so long. So it decided to split into two. But since the two knew they were originally one, playing together was not much fun, as if playing both sides of a chess game. So the two minds agreed to forget where they came from. They pretended not to know each other. As time passed, they also forgot about their agreement. They forgot they were actually one and the same. This is the condition of our existence. We forget that we are originally from one mind. When an enlightened person transcends the duality of you and me, she sees life as one long play. This is why she remains humorous and light-hearted. She plays her role but never forgets it is a performance. Life is like theater. You are assigned a role. If you don't like the role, keep in mind that you have the power to recreate the role you want.